Want to know how to make a Gummigoo cosplay? Watch here how I did it. And hello, I'm Mugiwara Cosplay, a fursuit maker and cosplay crafter. First, I used Blender to design the head base. I kept the design simple and made sure it would fit my head comfortably. I printed a small, scaled-down version of my 3D model. This miniature version helped me create an accurate tape pattern later on. I covered the 3D printed model with tape, ensuring every area was covered smoothly. If you are making this too, you can use clay instead of 3D printing. I just enjoy 3D modeling more. After that, I carefully cut and removed the tape in sections, keeping the shapes intact. I scanned the tape patterns into my computer. Using image editing software like Inkscape and Photoshop, I scaled the patterns up to the actual size I needed for my head and printed these enlarged patterns on paper. By the way, if you are interested in this pattern, it's available via my Patreon. I placed the paper patterns on the 10mm EVA foam and traced around them with a marker, making sure all pieces were traced accurately. Using a sharp craft knife, I cut out the traced EVA foam pieces. I took my time to ensure the edges were clean. For some shapes the pieces had to be cut different. I cut them beveled to get the rounder shapes, meaning that I tilt the knife a bit to the side while cutting. Time to put the pieces together. I applied contact cement to the edges of the foam pieces and pressed them together. This stuff is toxic, so I had to wear a mask while doing it. I followed the instructions on the cement for drying times to ensure a strong bond. And then I did it piece by piece. I used a heat gun to gently heat the foam, making it easier to shape. I molded the foam into the desired head shape, focusing on curves and contours. An extra piece had to be added to hold the shape. EVA foam can be tricky when it comes to organic shapes, so I also had to trim the edges a bit. I attached a plastic hinge at the jaw area so the jaw could move. I used hot glue to secure it in place. And also an elastic band on each side. Inside the head, I added padding with upholstery foam for comfort and fit, gluing the foam in place. I added elastic straps inside the head base so it could be worn securely. I test fitted and adjusted as needed. I ended up 3D printing a VR headset strap that seemed to work very well for this. I covered the interior padding foam with lining fabric, gluing it down for a neat finish. I used more upholstery foam to construct the back of the head. I made a tape pattern to make sure the pieces got the right shape. Then glued them together and on the head. Now time for fabric. I used tape to create a pattern on the foam head for the fabric covering. I cut and adjusted the tape until it fit perfectly. I traced the tape patterns onto fleece fabric, adding a seam allowance. I carefully cut out the fleece fabric pieces. I pinned the fabric pieces onto the foam head to check the fit and made adjustments as necessary. I began gluing the fabric pieces to the foam head, starting from one section and working my way around. I smoothed out any wrinkles as I went. Using a ladder stitch, I hand sewed the fabric seams together. This stitch helped hide the seams for a cleaner look. I also added a magnet for the hat later on. And more hand sewing. And the neck pieces got machine sewn together. I glued down the fabric around the eye areas, ensuring a smooth finish. I glued eye mesh on the inside of the eye openings for visibility. Then attached the rest of the neck. Added a tongue. And the hat. And that was the head. Now for the bodysuit. First, I created the tail base using upholstery foam. I cut the foam into the desired shape and size of the tail. Then I glued the pieces together. Next, I pinned the foam tail onto my duct tape dummy. This step is crucial because it helps ensure the tail will be positioned correctly on the final bodysuit. I covered the entire dummy, including the tail and padding, with another layer of tape. This helped create a solid form that I could use to make the pattern. Once fully covered, I used a marker to draw the outlines of the different parts of the bodysuit directly onto the tape. I carefully marked all the pieces I would need: the front, back, arms, spikes, and the tail. Then, I cut along these lines to create the pattern pieces. Once I had the pattern pieces, I traced them onto fleece fabric. I laid out the fabric flat and placed the pattern pieces on top, then traced around them with a fabric marker. I cut out all the fabric pieces. I made sure to cut carefully and precisely, as accurate cutting helps ensure the pieces will fit together properly when sewn. Now it was time to sew. I started sewing the pieces together one by one, following the pattern. For some of the seams, the ones on the foam, I wanted them less visible, so I used a hairbrush cleaner to brush out the fibers. I also added a zipper to the front of the bodysuit.
We gonna sing along, 'cause everybody's living life tonight. We're gonna be alright, love gonna be among us. All my fever, we thank me for so long, but now it's gone, we're gonna sing along, 'cause everybody's living life tonight. We're gonna be alright, love gonna be among us. Love gonna be among us.
With the bodysuit sewn together, I turned my attention back to the tail. I covered the foam tail with the fabric piece, gluing it securely to the foam, and closed it up with a ladder stitch. The foam back spikes also got glued in. To hide the raw foam in the inside, I hand sewed some lining fabric on. Lastly, I added the feet. I took a pair of comfortable shoes and glued them inside the feet of the bodysuit. First, with some hot glue on the fabric part of the shoes, and the special rubber glue on the sole parts, because normal glue doesn't work on rubber. I then cut the leftover fabric off. The chest has some foam padding, so I sewed some lining fabric together for that piece for a nicer finish. Last parts, the hands. I started by tracing the hand pattern onto the fleece fabric. I then cut out the pieces. I pinned the pieces with the right sides facing each other. Then, I sewed along the edges, leaving the wrist opening unsewn. After sewing, I cut the leftover fabric away. Next, I cut out the lining fabric using the same pattern. Once cut, I sewed the lining pieces together in the same way as I did with the fleece, again leaving the wrist opening unsewn. And then I sewed the lining on the fleece. Once the lining was sewn to the fleece, I turned the entire hand inside out. To give the hands their shape and softness, I used pillow stuffing. I carefully inserted the stuffing between the lining and the fleece, making sure to distribute it evenly. I added enough stuffing to make the hands look plump but not too tight. The final step was to close the wrist opening. I folded the edges of both the fleece and lining inward, pinning them together to hide any raw edges. Then, I machine sewed it together. With all the pieces together, the Gummigoo cosplay was complete. It was so satisfying to see it all come together. Making a cosplay can be a lot of work, but seeing the final result makes it all worth it. I hope this inspired you to make your own cosplay. And if you are new here, I make a lot of tutorials on how to make fursuits and creature cosplays, so make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to learn more. And also feel free to suggest more videos below in the comments. See you in the next video.